time to swarm the 402. Welcome to the Nebraska Hawks Nest. These guys are brave. They're Hawkeyes living in enemy territory. Listen, these guys are way past their prime, but they're still Hawkeyes. They're spreading the Hawkeye hype to all of Nebraska. The frost advisory is canceled. Corn Huskers, more like corn suckers. Are you ready for this podcast? Let's go Hawks!
All right, welcome back to the Nebraska Hawks Nest, your Hawkeye oasis located in a nasty little Nebraska desert. Today we are joined by former Iowa Hawkeyes running back Toren Young. Mr. Toren Young, thank you for joining us. How you doing?
Good, definitely. Thanks for having me on. Excited to do the show.
Man, you're still looking buff in shape, like you're ready to go, like you could hit the field today and play. Tell all the Hawkeye fans out there what you're up to right now, what's new with you, what's going on in your life, your family, everything.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot has changed since graduation. Most recently, had a child. He's
Congrats.
6 months now, so thank you. He's getting pretty big, just started crawling. So that's been exciting and a fun new journey. Got a job over at my old high school, Monona Grove, as the student and family engagement specialist.
Cool.
So I've been working with kids and their families, and being back in the school setting has been awesome. And then just signed a contract to play arena football with the Green Bay Blizzard. So really excited about that. And then also getting married this spring. So been a busy beginning of the year so far.
Wow. You got a lot of changes going on and a lot of new stuff. Tell us about this Green Bay Blizzard opportunity. Now, the Arena Football League is a ton of fun to watch. Like whenever I could go to a game, I've been to like Kansas City Brigade, Iowa Barnstormers, all that. Tell us about that, how that opportunity came up and what you're doing to really prepare for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had been in contact with some of the coaches and Coach Roberson over the past 2 years, really. I know last year, the year right after the draft so I entered the 2020 draft. That would have been, didn't get any opportunities, didn't get my name called right around when COVID started. And then that following spring, had been in contact with some coaches for the Blizzard and kind of just didn't work out at the time. I was working in a sales job, and with that, it was just tough because you work all year round. So it's like you can't really afford to always just up and move, especially when you got kids. And, so that was tough, and I had to pass on that season. But now with working in the school district and being on a contract and having summers off and things like that, something I can kind of work with in my schedule, and there's more realistic just to do now that I'm a little bit more settled in and with the routine. So, I mean, to prepare for it, I've really been ever since I had stopped playing at Iowa. I had been, training and staying in shape, trying to just wait on my opportunity and my moment. And I mean, there's probably a 3-month gap where I kind of just stopped and I wasn't on it. But ever since then, I'm waking up every morning, 5:30, going in. I'm running my mile. I'll do some lifting. I got a lifting program that I put together, and then I'll do some speed and agility work after the lift. So I've been working really hard.
All right. Well, Toren, tell us a little bit about what went into your decision to leave. And correct me if I'm wrong, you could have potentially come back for one more season and you decided to move on and try things out at the next level. What all went into that decision?
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a lot that kind of played into it. Um, it was a tough decision to make. Um, I felt like at the time, there was I felt like my carries at Iowa kind of started to decrease, and I kind of felt like my window was closing to make that decision. Um, I loved Iowa. I loved my teammates, and a lot of the coaches that I worked with. So it's definitely a tough decision. And I also had the option to transfer,
Mm,
and at the time, it was really tough to kind of weigh on that. Like, do I leave Iowa and go transfer to another school and get the carries that I felt I deserved, um, get more film, get that opportunity? But then there's a whole st- thing about starting fresh, starting new, and kind of that feeling that you kind of gave up and quit on some of your guys. It was just a lot. So,
yeah.
um, I didn't at the time. I didn't want to transfer, but I did see that window closing, and I knew if I would have stayed at Iowa, just based off of the last couple of games in the season, um, that Wisconsin game, I started, got a lot of carries. I thought I ran the ball pretty effectively to start, and then that next game didn't get any time against Minnesota or anything like that. So I felt that Iowa was moving in a different direction as far as carries, and it's tough because we had three running backs sharing carries, and it's tough to kind of manage that. And so I fully understand, and I had fun playing with those guys, and there was guys who weren't even in that rotation that were good running backs and could get carries. I mean, you look at Ivory Kelly Martin. I know he had a pretty good season this year. Dealt with some of the same things I was going through,
Yeah.
whether it be injuries, just getting less carries. But I think it's a similar situation. It was tough just to make that decision.
The really cool thing about you, Torin, that I know a lot of Hawkeye fans were really impressed with was um, how many times you were named to the leadership group, especially at an early age. You were consistently seen as a leader and as a role model on that team. Tell us about that feeling of getting chosen to be on the leadership group and what all that entailed.
Definitely. It was an honor to be on the leadership team for a program like Iowa. When you look at some of the names that have gone through the University of Iowa when it comes to captains and leaders, it's been an honor to be in that position, and getting that opportunity at a young age was definitely awesome. I just tried to go in and do everything the right way. Um, I wanted to go in, learn as much as I could, take whatever opportunities I got to step up and lead, and make sure I was taking advantage of those and utilizing. I've always been that type of person. Uh, Even being one of the youngest people in the room, I've never been one to kind of take a back seat. So I've always wanted to be, vocal and be that guy um, who leads both vocally and by example. I wanted to.
Mm.
I've never been the most athletically gifted. I've never been the smartest in the room, but I've always tried to be one of the hardest workers and be a leader.
And the staff clearly respected you. You were chosen, I believe, at a younger age than almost anyone else to go to Big Ten Media Days. You represented the program there. Tell us about the experience at Big Ten Media Days. It always seems like kind of a media circus there, and football fans are just salivating at that time of the year, wanting football, wanting to see it. So, football nerds like me, as soon as that comes on, I mean, I'm watching every second of it, and I'm watching teams that I don't even care about, just because I want that football. Tell us about what that experience was like to represent the University of Iowa at Big Ten Media Days.
No, yeah, it was definitely great experience, and it's tough because you only take three guys a year, and there's so many guys deserving to go. So again, was a huge honor to be able to represent the University of Iowa. The whole experience was great. Getting to see a bunch of the guys you compete with on Saturdays outside of the uniform, and outside of the stadiums where when you're on the field, there's no friends.
Yeah.
You talk to a lot of guys. You see some guys or have competed with in high school or in different sports and things like that, or you saw on recruiting visits, and it's cool to hear their experiences. And then on the media side, it's just fun to kind of step outside your shell. A lot of the stuff you do, or they ask you might not be the most comfortable with, or it's kind of out there and wild and goofy, but it's kind of fun to see, coaches and other players in that light as well.
Does it ever get like semi-heated or like any smack talk with the other guys? Like, you walk by like, some Nebraska guys or Wisconsin or Minnesota guys, those schools that we have that little bit of an edgy rivalry with, and like, is there any looks or anything like that? Like, okay, I can feel a little bit of heat here.
There's definitely a little posturing going on. Guys poking their chest out a little bit. Some guys you don't talk to. Some guys you do. Some guys you don't. You can see it with the coaches and everything too. It's interesting to see just how the coaches interact as well. But yeah, definitely a little tension in the air.
I always wondered that. I'd be like, I always wondered if there was a little smack talk on the side or any dirty looks or anything like that. But I know you guys always keep it first class. So, here, I'm sure you didn't participate if there's anything like that going on.
Never.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about as well is the famous woodshed game. Now, you had limited carries, but when you got the ball, you made an impact. I believe it was about five or six carries for 47 to 50 yards, I believe, altogether. Pull us in to that day in that environment. That was just an unbelievable game. It was awesome to be able to see just everything seemed to just kind of go right for us that day. The environment was amazing. The uniforms that you guys wore, I kind of want you to tell me about what you thought about those, because those were sick. Just to bring us into that day.
Yeah, definitely. You guys start with the uniforms. Get those were awesome. And Iowa every once in a while will do something new or interesting with the uniforms. Not too much. I remember my freshman year at Iowa, we brought out yellow cleats. And I think that was against, I think, North Dakota State. It would have been.
Didn't Kirk hate those? He got rid of them quick.
Yeah, and KF was like, "Yep, nope, we're going back to white cleats." So we don't do much with our uniforms. So to see that was pretty cool. So the quote, you feel good, you play good.
Yeah,
look good, feel good, play good. Excuse me, but so we definitely looked and felt really good, and we played good. But to go back to that game, it was funny. So Akram Wiley was the starting running back at the time, obviously. And we would always joke before games. And there were certain games where I'm like, oh, I'm going to get some carries this game. I know what's going on. So, I go over on the sideline, and defense goes out first. I'm like, hey, come on now, get it going fast so I can get some carries in this game. Like, these new uniforms, I need some carries.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, he's like, nah, you ain't getting carries in this game. And so we laughed about it. And then Amani Hooker gets that pick, right, to start the game.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I might get some carries this game. And he looked at me, he's like, nah, you ain't getting carries. And then so after that, we get it going, and we're firing on all cylinders, scoring points, having fun out there. And a little bit after halftime, he was like, yeah, get ready, you about to get some carries. So
all right.
And it was just a funny little story, but I always try to stay ready for my opportunity. That's one thing I think I can look back and be proud of at Iowa. Like I said, I didn't get as many carries as I would have wanted, but what I can say is when I did get in the game, I made the most out of every opportunity. And that was just an example of that.
We like to ask everybody, all the guys that played in that game, a similar question, and they all have a little bit of a different answer. but each of them always said that there's a point in that game where they felt like Ohio State gave up, where you guys broke their will. Do you remember approximately like at what point in the game where you're like, we got this, like this is ours, we, we're running through them right now and we've broken them? Is there any point that you remember feeling that way?
It's tough to remember the exact moment. But I honestly, just with the environment that we were in, that first pick of the game, like we punched them in the mouth there.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of set the tone for the game. Like they knew this wasn't going to be a rollover game. Like we were coming out to play, we were coming out to fight. And from that very moment, like that sparked it. So, I mean, a lot of guys might not say that they knew from that point on that we were going to win the game. But I knew from that moment on, like it was going to be a dogfight. And so that moment, that I think that was the moment of the game. Honestly, that was a big turning point.
One other game that we wanted to talk to you about too, and we asked guys about this because it just kind of organically came up a lot, was the Pinstripe Bowl. That I try to make it to as many bowl games as I can. Wasn't able to go to that one. It looked miserable. It looked frigid out there when you guys were playing. And we heard a lot of frustrating things from guys about the field, about how you weren't able to get your footing and they were sliding all over the place. Tell us about how that game, the atmosphere of that, playing a game in Yankee Stadium, what that was like and what the field conditions were like.
Yeah, that was definitely the most interesting game I had been a part of as a Iowa Hawkeye. The field was it was like an ice rink. Guys didn't know whether to wear cleats or whether to wear tennis shoes.
Yeah.
Boston College, they came out in tennis shoes after warm-ups for the game, and I mean that turned out to be a mistake. Guys were slipping all over the place, but I can tell you the cleats weren't much better. The field was so hard that it was almost like playing on concrete. I mean, when guys were just from the moment we stepped on, it was like, man, you don't want to get tackled on this. Like you don't want to be, and you could tell during the game, like just by the way, it was tough for defense because and offense too. But there, you don't get much change of direction. You try to change direction, you slip. It was definitely crazy, interesting game. But Yankee Stadium, beautiful stadium, beautiful atmosphere, a lot of history with the Yankees, and it was awesome to be able to play on that field and in that city.
I need to circle back because I kind of skimmed over something early on that I really wanted to talk to you about with growing up in Madison and in Wisconsin. That's a great town. I mean, no matter what, like you're a Hawkeye fan. I've been there before. That place is fun. It's a beautiful town. What did it feel like first in your recruiting process, ended up going to Iowa? What was that process like? And then also too, in retrospect, what it was like going up against the Badgers. I'm sure that was one that you just wanted a little bit more than the others.
Yeah, I mean, first off with recruiting, it was definitely interesting, especially with the history with Iowa and Wisconsin when it came to Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon was committed to Iowa, obviously, and then switched to Wisconsin. So my whole recruiting process, there was people like, oh, are you going to switch to – you're going to flip to Wisconsin like Melvin Gordon did or what? So that was always the talk of the town during the recruiting process. But the game was always fun. A lot of guys that I knew from high school were on the team or that I played against or, guys I had met through recruiting. And then just that opportunity to come out in the city you grew up in against the team you grew up watching, to be in front of the 80,000 fans at Camp Randall and be able to carry the ball. I played there, it would have been twice. Yeah. So the first time that night game, it was pretty cold and didn't get carries till late. That wasn't fun. I think that, they blew us out. But
okay,
the second game, being able to start was awesome. And it was fun. Got a couple of really good runs in there. I felt like got rolling, got some momentum. And then I think we ended up like bobbling a snap in a drive or like a QB center exchange, and then kind of went out for a little bit after that. Didn't get many carries after that, but I mean, I was feeling it though. I was definitely feeling good, being able to carry the ball, and try and run some guys over and just kind of establish that dominance and move the chains. It was awesome.
All right. Now I need you to really think, be a deep thinker on this one. Okay. Pull yourself back to your college days.
All right.
What are some funny stories, like some guys that were jokesters? We always hear about pranks going on, all kinds of different things that guys look back and they're just like, God, I can't believe that happened. That was ridiculous. Puts a smile on your face and you laugh. What's a story or two of some hijinks or something that happened maybe in the locker room, weight room, practice, something like that you look back on and laugh and like, man, I can't believe that happened.
Wow, yeah, that's tough.
You can do it. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably something. Man, that is
Anybody on the team that just made you laugh that was always like pulling shenanigans.
Yeah. There's a lot of funny guys on the team. That's tough to think of like one moment or one thing, but I don't know. I was roommates with Amani Jones.
Okay.
And Kyle Taylor as well. And so we had some pretty funny stories and good times, but I don't know. I got to think on that. That's tough. You put me on the spot there. But
We'll circle back. We'll circle back before it's over. Do you have any extra light in there, Toren? We can't really see it. It's like real.
I'm trying to see if I can.
Real dim. I can see people now being like, we couldn't even see him in the interview.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move this I'm going to go to the nursery. There's more light in there.
Okay. We're making this interview mobile.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back to that question
right
at the end. I know that's a tough one. Even when I warn guys about that question, it's just like, yeah, I got a million things, but like nothing. It's usually stuff that they feel like they can't share on the podcast.
Yeah.
That their buddy is. So I always say, share the story, but leave guys nameless if you have to. So we've had guys share stories about getting all their equipment taped to the ceiling. Stories about guys that like, hanging out naked in the computer lab by the locker room, like doing their homework, weird stuff like that. It's like, I would have been a mess. I'm one of those people that once I start laughing and if I know I'm supposed to stop, then it all falls apart. And yeah, it's not a good deal. So while we're thinking about that, pull us into the Holiday Bowl, which was a really, as a fan, an amazing game to watch and be a part of. Now, I don't think that you guys got to hear this, but Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart were the in-studio guys before the game, and they pretty much were saying that Iowa didn't have a chance, that USC had way more talent than us. They have way more elite athletes, and just the speed and athleticism of USC was just going to trounce the Hawkeyes. And then you should have seen their face at halftime when they cut to the studio. They were shocked. Like, it was just like, something horrible just happened to them. They were like, what's going on here? Like, and then at the end of the game, they're calling for Clay Helton's job and how frustrated and annoyed they are with the state of USC football. So as a Hawkeye fan, it was very, very satisfying that, you have some of those programs that are a little elitist like USC that, kind of think even if they're bad, they think they're better than other people. Yeah. Pull us into that game. What was that environment like? How did that feel to put the shellacking on the USC Trojans?
Yeah, definitely. USC, very, like you said, huge history in their program of great teams. And they're one of those big name teams when you think of college football and you think of the top teams. So it was definitely awesome to be able to play that opponent. The environment at I think did they change the name of that stadium, or is it still Qualcomm Stadium over there?
I think that's still the name.
Yeah, that was a really cool environment though too. Just being a kid watching Chargers games there, and seeing that big wall that they got in that end zone there. And,
you know what? I heard today that they just demolished it.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're building the San Diego State's building a new stadium there since the Chargers moved. I just heard that today.
Wow. Yeah, seeing that stadium and being able to play in it was super exciting. Great opponent, great bowl game. Amir Smith-Marset had a crazy game. that game. So it was all awesome and exciting to be a part of and play in. It was very bittersweet though at the same time, especially like for me knowing that it was going to be my last game as a Hawkeye. But definitely had a good time and enjoyed that trip with the guys.
What was your absolute favorite thing about being a Hawkeye? Living in Iowa City, being a member of the Iowa football team, it definitely had to been and will be one of the best experiences of your life, hopefully. Tell us a little bit about like what your favorite things were about being a Hawkeye.
Definitely. First and foremost, just my teammates, the bonds and relationships I built with them. During while you play football, there's a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily like, and you're like, man, I can't wait till I'm done with this. But it's like
Yeah.
I look at the conditioning we do. I hated conditioning as a player. Hated it. I'm like, I can't wait. Once I'm done playing football, I'm never doing this again. But like the big conditioning test when we're doing quarters and out there running in the that humid Iowa heat, and you got to push through and you feel like you can't go anymore, and you just got your brothers to lean on, and you're like, all right, I see Amani Jones is going and he's making his times every time and he's leading the pack and he's pushing. I'm going to do the same. And that the struggles and all the hard things you go through, the early morning meetings, the lifting, and the bond you create through that is awesome. Then next, just knowing that every time you put on that Tiger Hawk, you put on the black and gold, there's a history of underdogs and under recruited and tough, smart, physical football players and guys that came before you. No matter who we were playing, whether it was Ohio State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, USC, Mississippi State, you always knew people don't think I was flashy. They don't give us the respect we deserve. But when you put on that uniform and you're swarming together and you're holding hands, it doesn't matter what it's us against everybody. And I love that feeling. And there's nothing that duplicates that or can replicate that feeling.
Oh, man, you couldn't have said that better. That got me fired up. That was amazing. That was beautifully said. That might be the best description I've ever heard of that. So that was freaking awesome. Before we let you go here, we want to get your opinion on the state of the football program right now, with how the team finished last year, 10-4, 10-win season. You can't really scoff at that. It's 10-win season's always something to be very proud of. What are you seeing out there as a guy that has played for the Hawkeyes when you're watching them? What are your observations right now?
It's tough, and I can give my opinion, and it's easy for me to say because I'm sitting on the couch watching.
Yeah.
And obviously I was a part of the team, and I have my opinions and my experiences, but I'll give you my opinion, but I just want to preface it with I'm not there. I don't know what's going on in the building, and it's easy for me to be a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
I think this season was awesome. First of all, 10-win season, you don't see that much. That I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I forget the records when I played on the team. I don't know if we made it. If we had a 10-win season when I was playing, I don't think so. But anytime you're up in the double-digit wins, that's awesome. Anytime you get a chance to go to Indy, that's awesome. Playing in a great bowl game like the Citrus Bowl, awesome. I thought it was hard offensively for us to really get in the groove. I think we definitely have the weapons, but we just didn't really get in a rhythm and get really. I would like to see us lean a lot more on the run game and get that established, but it's tough. I liked how the young running backs played in the last game. I think that we could do a better job of utilizing our pieces. Goodson, great running back. He can do it all. He can carve out tough yards, but he's best in space.
Yeah.
So I think taking some of those carries off of him where he's trying to carve out those tough yards can be very beneficial. I think that's what worked well when it was me, Makai, and Goodson in the backfield. I had a lot of the when the fullback was in the game, I was in the game a lot of time trying to carve out the tough yards. Makai, did a little bit of everything, but then we could really utilize Goodson in space, getting him in some single back stuff, screens, draws. I thought that was that helped us establish more of a run game. It's tough to say. I think the quarterbacks, it was tough for them to get in the groove. Spencer dealt with some injuries and different things, so it's tough for him to kind of get going. And then when you got Padilla coming in, he did an awesome job as well, but he never really got into his groove. So offensively, I thought it was different, a lot going on, dealing with adversity. So just getting a better groove in that. But teams did great. Defense played great. Offense, they showed great moments, but it's tough. It's easier said than done. It's some of the same stuff we were working on when I was there, and it's easier for me to critique the offense, or have an opinion on the offense because I played offense. I can't say much about defense, So
I get that. And I liked how you prefaced it too. It's like, we're not there. We all still have opinions, some critical, some complimentary. But at the end of the day, we're not there. We're not living it. We're not in the system. We're not in the building every day. So we only know so much. We only can say so much, but we can still have our opinions. But I always like to preface it as well. I don't know for sure. I'm not there every day. It's hard to tell. Coach Brian Ferentz has gotten a lot of heat from fans because of the offensive output this year. What was your relationship like with Brian? And how did he help you become a better player?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Brian was he helped me learn more about the game, learn more about the X's and O's. Brian is extremely intelligent when it comes to football, and he's a good teacher in showing you how to break down film and how to look at different things on the field to get tips like, oh, well, if I look at this, if I see the safety doing this, I know they could be bringing a blitz here, or when the backer's stance is like this, I know he's dropping off in the coverage. So definitely helped me in that aspect of the game.
Awesome. Toren, thank you a ton for taking time out of your busy schedule with work, with the family, everything you have going on. I mean, it's very obvious for us to see here, and why the Hawkeye coaching staff and your teammates are always so complimentary of you and always held you in such high regard as a leader and as a role model. So thank you for everything you did for Iowa football. Just know that as Hawkeye fans, we'll never forget you. We always talk about you to this day, and we're always super appreciative of everything you did for us.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and thanks for the opportunity to be on the show.
All right. Heck yeah. All right. Thanks, Toren. Go Hawks.
All right. Go Hawks.